Just so you know, this show is about scary stuff. So don't say I didn't warn you guys. And remember, don't be scared.
Minisode number 1. Halo made me do it. War Baby here with another episode of Murderous Minors. Daniel Petric was by all accounts a typical 16-year-old boy. Growing up in Wellington, Ohio, Danny's father Mark was the head pastor of the New Life Assembly of God Church. They enjoyed an active life in a family completed by Mom Susan and sisters Heidi and Holly. Described as a goofy kid, what Danny really loved to do was be outside playing sports like football, and he was the tailback on his high school's team. Like so many across the country and world, Mark and his son enjoyed playing video games together, especially things like motocross racing games and other sports-related content. Danny's parents had no issues with such content and never worried about the impact they could have on their child. All that would change following a recreational accident in which Danny Petric would seriously injure his back. The teen's mobility from that point was to be severely limited. No running, no sports, and therefore no risk for future irreversible damage. To make matters even tougher to deal with, Danny acquired a staph infection, only prolonging his isolation and recovery. Quickly gone was the Petric's fun-loving son, always outgoing and often clowning around. In his place, they had a sullen, reclusive replacement who was now intensely engrossed in the kind of video games he could enjoy by himself while being left alone. Danny became a recluse, controller in hand up to 18 hours a day, only leaving his bedroom to use the bathroom and grab something to eat. First-person shooter games put the player behind the trigger and soon became Danny's blossoming obsession. He particularly enjoyed playing Call of Duty along with the Halo series on Xbox. The targets are aliens, the weapons out of this world. Nonetheless, given the violent nature of the games, Danny's parents would not allow either in their home. He'd been introduced to them at a friend's house. Mark and Sue Petric forbade their child from owning or playing Halo, but when the newest edition was released, he had to have it. He'd been sneaking out routinely to buy the banned games and play them in his room. Ultimately, his mother discovered his dirty little secret and alerted Mark. The game was confiscated, Mark telling his son that he wasn't getting it back. He secured it in his lockbox, right next to his 9mm handgun, where they were supposed to be safe. Days turned to weeks, and Danny decided he couldn't live without his favorite pastime. He was ready to do something about it. So, as he has said in more than one televised interview, he used the key and he retrieved his beloved game from its once secure home. But what he had really unlocked that box for on October 20th, 2007 was the pastor's gun, a 9mm Taurus pistol. Danny told Deborah Roberts on Katie Couric's talk show that he was mad at his father and that he planned to kill him. Danny took the gun into the family room where his parents were watching television, saying this in that interview.
So did you think, I'm going to go get a gun and I'm going to kill my dad?
I did. I went in my room and I was mad. I told my dad, hang on, I got something I want to show you. I went and grabbed a gun and...
In an interview with Crime Watch Daily, Father Mark Petric said this about that deadly interaction with his son.
And he came out and he said to me and Sue, hey, Mom and Dad, I have a surprise for you. Will you close your eyes? And I glanced over at Sue and I was like, okay, cool. We thought maybe he was going to be showing us something or apologizing about all the video game tension. He came right around here, walked up right behind me, and shot me right in the head. And then he turned took 4 shots at his mom, and he hit her 3 times, and she died almost instantly.
His father was wounded, his mother dead. As if that weren't enough, the next step in Danny's ingenious plan was to frame his father for the murder and run off into the sunset with his beloved copy of Halo 3. Mark said that Danny kept trying to put the gun in his hands as he bled from his head. Just then, Danny's sister Heidi and her husband arrived and knocked on the front door. They'd had plans to come over and watch a baseball game with Mark and Sue that evening. But Danny doesn't let them all the way in, instructing them to stay outside, that their mom and dad had been fighting. Heidi didn't buy it, and the pair forced their way into the bloody scene. Danny leaves the gun and runs to the family's minivan with his game. He's trying to get over to his friend's house, but he's pulled over quickly and taken into custody. In the dashcam footage, you can clearly hear him implicating his father over and over.
My dad, he shot my mom and he shot himself. My dad shot my mom! Why would my dad shoot my mom? I don't know, man.
He continued on with that story, giving a play-by-play that put his father, Pastor Mark Petric, at fault. It didn't take long, however, for Danny to confess to murdering his mother and shooting his father. He was charged with aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, as well as tampering with evidence. In lieu of a jury trial, Danny's case was heard by Lorain County Common Pleas Judge James Burge. The defense alleged that Danny's young age and weakened physical condition, especially from the staph infection, made him more susceptible to confusion from the video game. He was addicted to the point that reality was blurred. The prosecution asked for the maximum sentence of life without the possibility of parole, plus 21 years. Danny didn't make a statement in court, but his father did, saying,
"I can't count the number of times he has told me that he is so sorry for what he did and he'll never be able to forgive himself. I can't count the number of times that he said, 'Dad, I miss Mom. I miss Mom.'"
In June 2009, Judge Burge sentenced Danny Petric to 23 years to life in prison. He is currently housed at Ohio's Trumbull Correctional Institution and will be eligible for parole in September of 2030. After weeks in the hospital and 5 surgeries, Mark Petric has attempted to rebuild his life following his wife's murder at their son's hands. In recent years, he has remarried and he has forgiven his son. Initially, he said he felt nothing but hate for this killer, and he wanted to kill him. He felt he may not be able to love him again. But then he saw him, and he could love him still. So he does, even if no one really understands why this happened, still. I was telling my 18-year-old son about this case, simply stating that Danny Petric shot his parents because they took away his copy of Halo 3. His response was, "There's just no way. There has to be more to this story." And there is. There's that devastating injury, the treatment, recovery, and rehabilitation, and massive staph infection, which all precipitated his personality shift, and this crime, which is something to consider. Has anyone you know ever started acting differently following an accident or illness? Anything is possible. See you tomorrow for another installment in the Countdown to Halloween series. But until then, lovelies, don't be scared.